The victory at Taurus Cluster changed everything. News of humanity's stand spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The races that had fled in terror began to look at humans with new eyes. Not as primitives, not as weaklings, but as warriors who had done the impossible. Counselor Bora stood before the reformed Galactic Council, but this time the chamber was different. Representatives from dozens of civilizations filled the seats. Some had fought at Taurus. Others were returning from their retreat, ashamed but willing to fight again. The Draconid commander who had joined the battle rose to speak. His name was Velmar, and his people respected strength above all else. The humans showed us something we had forgotten. That technology alone does not win wars. That sometimes the heart of a warrior matters more than the power of his weapon. A Kalari representative pulsed with blue light. We proposed the formation of a new alliance. The old union failed because we were divided by pride and history. This new alliance must be different. What do you propose? Bora asked. That Earth lead it? That your Admiral Taman command all allied forces? The chamber erupted in debate. Some agreed enthusiastically. Others objected to putting humans in charge. But slowly, the voices of agreement grew louder. The Lithan representative, whose people had lost the most in the war, finally spoke. We dismissed humanity as primitive. We mocked your technology. We were fools. If Admiral Taman will lead us, we will follow. Bora felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. I will convey your decision to Earth, but understand this. If we lead our way. No more traditional formations. No more relying only on superior technology. We fight smart. We fight together. And we take the war to the enemy. Admiral Taman accepted command of what was now called the Alliance of Free Worlds. His first act was to promote Commander Jiho to Fleet Coordinator and Engineer Yuna to Director of Technology Integration. They had 3 weeks to prepare for the next phase of the war, because the Varatham were not done. While humanity had stopped their advance at Taurus, the enemy had struck elsewhere. 12 systems came under simultaneous attack, and this time the Varatham brought something new. Biological weapons. The first sign was on the colony world of New Busan, a human settlement of 5 million people. The Varatham deployed what looked like ordinary orbital bombardment. But instead of explosives, they released spores. The spores spread through the atmosphere in hours. They infected every organic material they touched. Plants withered. Animals died. People developed horrible symptoms as the infection ate them from inside. The colony's hospitals were overwhelmed within a day. Dr. Hana received the distress call aboard the Horizon. She immediately ordered her ship to New Busan, despite the danger. When they arrived, the planet was dying. Get me samples, she ordered her team. Full contamination protocols. We need to understand this thing before it spreads. The spores were unlike anything in her database. They didn't just kill, they consumed, breaking down organic matter and using it to replicate. Left unchecked, they could strip a planet bare in weeks. Hana worked around the clock, testing thousands of compounds, searching for something that would stop the infection. Her team worked alongside her, fueled by desperation and coffee. They knew millions of lives depended on them. 3 days into the research, Hana found a potential solution. A combination of antibiotics and antifungal agents that seemed to slow the spore's reproduction. But it needed testing. I'll test it, she said. Her assistant grabbed her arm. Doctor, you can't. If it doesn't work, you'll be infected. Hana injected herself with the spores, then the treatment. If it doesn't work, autopsying my body might give you the data you need to find something that does. For 6 hours, she lay in quarantine while her team monitored her vital signs. The infection took hold. Her temperature spiked. She began showing the early symptoms. The treatment seemed to be failing. Then slowly her body began to fight back. The treatment adapted, targeting the spore's replication mechanism. By the 12th hour, the infection was retreating. By the 24th hour, she was clear. Start mass production immediately, Hana ordered from her hospital bed, and transmit the formula to every world in the Alliance. The Vorathim will use this weapon again. The cure arrived on New Busan with hours to spare. 3,000 people had already died, but the remaining millions were saved. Similar attacks on other worlds were stopped before they could spread. Dr. Hana's sacrifice had saved billions of lives across dozens of species. While the medical crisis unfolded, Admiral Taman planned his next move. Defense was no longer enough. The Alliance had to take the offensive. They needed to hit the Varatham where it hurt. Intelligence gathered from captured enemy vessels had revealed something critical. The Varatham were not endless. They needed reinforcements from their home dimension, and those reinforcements came through a dimensional rift in deep space. If we can close that rift, we cut off their reinforcements, Taman explained to his command staff. Without new ships, we can defeat what's already here. Commander Jiho pulled up a tactical display. The rift is heavily defended. 50,000 Varatham ships in the sector. We'd be outnumbered 10-1. I'm aware. Engineer Yuna stepped forward. I've been working on something. The rift is held open by massive amounts of energy. If we could overload it, introduce enough destabilizing power in the right way, we might be able to collapse it. How much power are we talking about? Multiple fusion reactor detonations, precisely coordinated. We'd need at least 30 ships willing to overload their reactors in sequence, positioned around the rift. Silence filled the room. 30 ships, hundreds, maybe thousands of crew. It was another suicide mission. Start working on the calculations, Taman said quietly, and put out a call for volunteers. People have a right to know what they're signing up for. Within 24 hours, over 500 ship captains had volunteered. Humans, Draconids, Kellery, even Lithans. The list kept growing until Taman had to stop accepting names. Counselor Bora helped organize the political side of the operation. Getting all the allied races to commit their remaining ships to one desperate assault required delicate diplomacy. Some races were still recovering from earlier losses. Others wanted to hold back forces to defend their homeworlds. But slowly, Bora built the coalition. She reminded them that the Varatham would not stop, that every world would eventually burn unless they took the fight to the enemy. She spoke of the sacrifices humanity had made, of Captain Dae-sung and Captain Minho, and thousands of others who had given everything. This is not just Earth's war, she said to the assembled representatives. This is a war for survival, for the right of all our species to exist. Stand with us now or fall alone later. The choice is yours. One by one, the races committed their fleets. The Alliance fleet gathered in secret, staying hidden in deep space while they prepared for the assault. 10,000 ships from 50 different civilizations. It was the largest military force ever assembled. Commander Jiho spent his time training the fleet in coordinated assault tactics. The elder races were used to fighting independently, each captain making their own decisions. That wouldn't work against the Varatham. They needed to fight as one unit. Think of it like a swarm, he explained to a group of alien commanders. Individual ships are vulnerable, but together, moving in coordination, supporting each other, we become something the enemy can't easily defeat. The Draconid commander, Velmar, growled. My people do not hide behind others. I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to fight smart. Position your heavy ships here, where their weapons can provide covering fire. Let the faster human ships draw enemy attention, then you hit them while they're distracted. Velmar studied the tactical display. It is not dishonorable, very well. We will do as you suggest. Engineer Yuna worked with teams from every species integrating their technologies. Kalari energy shields were added to human ships. Draconid weapons were mounted on Lithan hulls. Every ship became a hybrid, stronger than any single race could build. She also finalized the design for what she called the Hellfire Protocol. 36 ships would be needed to collapse the rift. Each ship would overload its reactor at a specific moment, creating a cascade of explosions that would destabilize the dimensional fabric. The ships were painted black and marked with a simple white star. Everyone knew what those markings meant. The crews of those ships were already dead. They just hadn't stopped fighting yet. Dr. Hana was assigned to the flagship Horizon, a massive carrier that would serve as the mobile command center. Despite her recent infection, she insisted on joining the mission. I've studied the Varatham longer than anyone. If there are any surprises, I need to be there. The night before the fleet departed, Admiral Taman recorded a message. He knew there was a good chance he wouldn't survive the battle. None of them might survive, but that was fine. They had all made peace with that possibility. To the people of Earth and our allies, he said to the camera, tomorrow we launch the largest military operation in galactic history. We go to face an enemy that has destroyed civilizations for millions of years. The odds are not in our favor, but I have learned something in the months since this war began. I've learned that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to act despite that fear. The Taurus cluster burned with the fires of war. For 11 days straight, human and alien ships fought against the Varatham tide. There was no rest, no pause. Only the constant thunder of weapons and the flash of dying ships. Captain Daesung had not slept in 40 hours. The Indomitable bore scars from a dozen engagements. Hull breaches sealed with emergency foam, burned out weapon systems. Life support running at 60%. But they were still fighting. "Captain, we have a priority target," his tactical officer reported. Long-range sensors picked up a Varatham command carrier entering the sector. Daesung studied the display. The command carrier was different from the other Varatham ships. Larger, more heavily armored, and surrounded by an escort of smaller vessels. Dr. Hana's research showed these carriers broadcast the regeneration signal to entire battle groups. Destroy one and hundreds of enemy ships would become vulnerable. "How many ships can we pull together?" "Most of our squadron is engaged or damaged. We might get 2 cruisers and a destroyer. 4 ships against a carrier and its escorts." The odds were terrible, but if they succeeded, they could change the momentum of the entire battle. "Send the signal. All available ships form up on our position." Within minutes, 3 damaged ships joined the Indomitable. Their captains appeared on his screen, faces exhausted but determined. "This is a volunteer mission," Daesung told them. "That carrier is too important to ignore, but the chances of survival are minimal." Captain Hyun of the destroyer Swift Reply smiled tiredly. "Captain, none of us expected to survive this battle anyway. Might as well make it count." The others nodded agreement. "Then let's go kill a carrier." Commander Jiho watched his drone swarms dance through the battlefield. He had lost thousands already, but production facilities on Earth and the colonies were working around the clock to build more. The drones were simple, cheap, and expendable. Everything the Elder Race's expensive warships were not. A new swarm of 5,000 drones emerged from a human carrier. Jiho programmed their attack pattern and released them. They scattered across the battlefield like seeds on the wind, seeking targets of opportunity. One group found a damaged Varatham destroyer trying to retreat. The drones surrounded it, attaching to the hull and detonating in sequence. The destroyer broke apart, adding to the debris field that now filled the cluster. Another group intercepted Varatham fighters pursuing a damaged human frigate. The drones formed a screen, absorbing fire that would have destroyed the larger ship. When the Varatham fighters pushed through, there were only 3 left. The frigate's point defense guns finished them off. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Taman," his assistant said. "He wants to know if we can spare drones for a special operation." "What kind of operation?" "He didn't say. Just asked how many we could provide within the hour." Jiho checked his reserves. "Tell him 10,000, and that I'm coming with them." Dr. Hana worked frantically aboard the research vessel Horizon, now serving as a mobile laboratory in the battle zone. Wounded ships limped to her position for repairs. She analyzed every piece of Varatham technology they recovered, looking for new weaknesses to exploit. Her team had expanded the range of the quantum jammers by 30%. They had identified the specific frequencies that disrupted Varatham communications most effectively. They had even developed a weapon that used the enemy's own regeneration against them, causing uncontrolled cell growth that ate through their hulls. But it wasn't enough. The Varatham kept adapting. Every advantage humanity gained lasted only hours before the enemy found a countermeasure. A new sample arrived, recovered from a destroyed Varatham ship. Hana examined it under her microscope and felt her blood run cold. The cellular structure had changed. The Varatham were developing resistance to the jammers. She ran the calculations 3 times, hoping she was wrong. She wasn't. "How long do we have?" her assistant asked quietly. "Maybe 3 days before the jammers stop working completely." "What do we tell the Admiral?" Hana sat back, exhaustion and fear washing over her. Then she straightened. "We tell him the truth. And then we find another weakness. That's what we do." Captain Minho and the Ghosts prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. Intelligence had located a Varatham mothership, a massive vessel that coordinated entire fleets. It was too heavily defended for conventional attack. But if a small team could board it and plant explosives in the right places, they might be able to cripple it. Minho checked his team's equipment. Combat suits designed for zero-gravity fighting, plasma cutters for breaching hulls, enough explosives to crack a moon, and no illusions about their chances of making it back. "Remember the drill," he told his soldiers. Get in fast, plant the charges, get out faster. We have 15 minutes before the explosives detonate. That's not negotiable. His second in command, a tough woman named Hee-Jin, raised her hand. And if we can't get out in time? Minho met her eyes. Then we make sure the charges go off anyway. The assault ship Ghost Runner launched from the human carrier. It was small, fast, and coated with stealth materials that made it nearly invisible to sensors. It slipped through the battle, dodging fire and debris, heading straight for the mothership. The Varatham vessel loomed ahead, organic and wrong, covered in pulsing veins that glowed with dark energy. Weapon ports opened along its surface like wounds. Fighter craft swarmed around it like flies around a corpse. 30 seconds to contact, the pilot called out. Minho gripped his weapon tighter. All teams, final check. Green lights appeared on his display. Everyone was ready. The Ghost Runner slammed into the mothership's hull. Plasma cutters burned through the organic armor. Atmosphere vented. Then the ghosts were inside, moving through corridors that looked like the inside of a living creature. They encountered Voratham soldiers immediately. The enemy creatures were massive, twice the size of humans with multiple arms and natural weapons. But in the tight confines of the ship's interior, size was a disadvantage. The ghosts used speed and superior tactics flanking the enemy, using explosives in narrow corridors. Hee-Jin led her team to the ship's power core. Minho took his team deeper, toward what sensors indicated was the central control node. They fought their way through corridors that tried to seal them in, past defense systems that adapted to their weapons. 2 soldiers fell to Voratham fire, then 3 more. But the rest pushed forward. Captain Dae-sung's attack on the command carrier was not going well. The escort ships were more aggressive than expected, and the carrier itself bristled with weapons. The swift reply had been destroyed in the opening minutes. The cruiser Steadfast was adrift, her engines dead and half her crew evacuated. Only the Indomitable and the cruiser Resolute remained, battered and bleeding, still trying to reach their target. All power to forward shields, Dae-sung ordered. Helm, take us in. Full speed. The Indomitable shuddered as enemy fire hammered her shields. Alarms screamed across the bridge. A console exploded, killing the officer manning it. Emergency crews rushed to contain the fires, but they kept moving forward. The Resolute positioned herself between the Indomitable and the heaviest enemy fire, taking hits meant for Dae-sung's ship. Her captain appeared on screen, face bloodied from a head wound. We can't take much more, she said simply. Make it count. Pull back, Dae-sung ordered. That's a direct order. No, sir. We finish this together. The Resolute exploded 3 seconds later, her reactor breaching under sustained fire. But her sacrifice gave the Indomitable the opening she needed. Dae-sung brought his ship in close, so close he could see the pulsing veins in the carrier's organic hull. Activate all jammers. Maximum power. The quantum disruption field washed over the carrier. Its shields flickered and failed. The regeneration systems that had kept it alive through countless battles stopped working. Fire everything we have. The Indomitable's remaining weapons fired point blank. Energy beams and missiles tore into the carrier's exposed hull. Deep wounds opened. The organic ship screamed, a sound that came through their hull and made everyone on the bridge feel sick. Captain, we're losing life support. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Engine room is gone. Dae-sung looked at his crew. Young faces, old faces, people who had followed him into certain death. Evacuate the ship. All personnel to escape pods. That's an order. Captain, you need to evacuate too. Dae-sung shook his head. Someone needs to keep the ship on course. Make sure she hits the target. His tactical officer stood up. Then I'm staying too. No, I need you to lead the others. Get them home. Tell them about what we did here. He locked the bridge doors before anyone could argue. Then he sat in the captain's chair and took manual control of the helm. The Indomitable, burning and broken, accelerated toward the carrier. Dae-sung overloaded the fusion reactor, just as engineer Yuna had designed. The ship became a missile, a bullet aimed at the enemy's heart. His last thought was of Earth, of blue skies and green fields, of a planet worth dying for. The explosion lit up the entire sector. The carrier and the Indomitable died together, along with Dae-sung and the 24 crew who refused to abandon him. But the carrier's destruction meant something. Without its coordination signal, 200 Varatham ships suddenly lost their ability to regenerate efficiently. The human fleet, bloodied but unbroken, fell upon them like wolves. The Taurus cluster looked peaceful from a distance. Clouds of purple and blue gas stretched across millions of kilometers, lit from within by young stars. It was beautiful. It was also the perfect killing ground. Admiral Taman stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching his fleet take position. Ships arrived every hour from across human space. Military cruisers, mining vessels, colony transports, even luxury yachts that had been stripped down and fitted with missile pods. If it could fly and carry a weapon, it was part of the fleet now. Commander Jiho worked at his station, coordinating the chaos. He was 32 years old and had spent his entire career studying drone warfare. Before the crisis, his ideas had been considered too radical, too risky. Now they were humanity's best hope. How many do we have? Taman asked. Jiho checked his displays. 4,300 ships, another 800 still being fitted out, and approximately 40,000 combat drones. Taman nodded. It wasn't enough. The Vorthim fleet advancing toward them numbered over 3,000 capital ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humans had ever built. But numbers weren't everything. The elder races had learned that lesson in blood. What about the weapons platforms? 600 installed so far, hidden in the nebula where their sensors can't detect them. Each platform carries 50 heavy missiles and 4 railguns. Good. Keep building. Engineer Yuna entered the command center carrying a datapad. She looked exhausted but excited. Admiral, I think I found something. She brought up a schematic of a human fusion drive. Our power systems are old compared to the elder races. Less efficient, more unstable. The Lithans always mocked them. I'm aware, Taman said dryly. But unstable means they can be overloaded. If we push the reactor past safety limits, we can create an explosion equal to a nuclear warhead. Bigger if we chain multiple drives together. Taman studied the numbers. How close would a ship have to get? Point-blank range. It would be a suicide attack. The room fell silent. Taman met Yuna's eyes. She didn't look away. Build it, he said quietly. And pray we don't have to use it. On Kepler 4U-2, Dr. Hana finally found what she was looking for. It had taken 3 days of constant work, but she had isolated the mechanism the Vorthim used to regenerate. Every Vorthim soldier was connected to a command ship through a quantum link. The command ship broadcast a carrier signal that coordinated their adaptation and regeneration. Cut that signal, and they became vulnerable. She immediately transmitted her findings to Earth Command. Within hours, every human ship was being fitted with signal jammers tuned to the right frequency. It wasn't perfect. The range was limited, but it was a weakness, and that was more than the elder races had found. Counselor Bora stood before what remained of the Galactic Union Council. Most of the elder races had fled to the outer rim. Only a few representatives remained, and they looked at Bora with a mixture of fear and resentment. Earth requests command of the defensive effort, Bora announced. A Lithan representative, one of the few survivors of their military command, laughed bitterly. You? Your weapons are centuries behind ours. Your ships are slow, your tactics are primitive, and your fleets are destroyed, Bora said coldly. Your worlds are burning. Your people are dying, so perhaps it's time to try something primitive. The Kalari ambassador, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix, pulsed with orange light. What makes you think you can succeed where we failed? Because we don't rely on technology alone. We adapt, we survive, and we're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. A Draconid commander, his scales scarred from recent battles, leaned forward. What do you propose? Give us command of the defense at Taurus Cluster. Let us show you how humans fight. The Lithan representative started to object, but the Draconid raised a clawed hand. We have nothing left to lose. If the humans want to die buying us time, let them. Bora forced herself to stay calm. We're not planning to die. We're planning to win. Captain Dae-sung watched his crew prepare the Indomitable for battle. Every system was being checked and rechecked. Weapons were loaded. Drones were prepped. The ship hummed with nervous energy. His tactical officer approached. Captain, we're receiving volunteers from the civilian ships. People want to transfer to military vessels. Tell them we need them where they are. Every ship matters. Sir, some of them are children. Families from the colony transports. They're asking to help. Dae-sung closed his eyes. This was what the war had become. Families fighting alongside soldiers. Children who should have been in schools now learning to operate weapon systems. It was wrong. But the alternative was extinction. Find them non-combat positions, communications, damage control, medical. If they want to help, let them help. Captain Minho led his team through combat drills aboard their assault ship. The Ghosts were humanity's best special operations unit, trained for boarding actions and sabotage. They had fought pirates and smugglers across the Outer Rim. But fighting the Varathim would be different. Listen up, Minho said to his assembled team. Everything we know about the enemy says they're tough. They regenerate. They adapt. They're bigger and stronger than us. He paused, letting that sink in. So we don't fight fair. We hit them fast and hard in places they don't expect. We plant bombs. We disable their systems. We make them afraid. One of his soldiers raised a hand.
Can they feel fear?
Minho smiled grimly. We're about to find out. The Varathim fleet entered the Taurus cluster exactly when Admiral Taman predicted. 3,000 massive ships moving in formation, their organic hulls pulsing with dark energy. They had destroyed everything in their path. They expected this battle to be the same. Taman watched them approach on his tactical display. All ships hold position. Weapons free. Execute Plan Alpha. The nebula came alive with violence. Hidden weapons platforms opened fire. Missiles streaked out from the gas clouds, thousands of them, converging on the Varathim vanguard. Railguns fired metal slugs at relativistic speeds, punching through organic armor. The enemy fleet staggered under the sudden assault. Then the drones attacked. Commander Jiho had spent weeks programming their patterns. 40,000 small craft swarmed the Varathim ships like angry insects. Individually they were weak, but together they were overwhelming. They targeted sensors, weapon ports, propulsion systems. When Varathim defenders destroyed them, they exploded, doing even more damage. Second wave, launch, Jiho ordered calmly. The human fleet emerged from the nebula. They didn't engage in the orderly formations the elder races preferred. Instead, they scattered, forcing the Varathim to divide their attention. Small groups of ships worked together, using Dr. Hana's jammers to disrupt the enemy's regeneration, then concentrating fire on vulnerable targets. Captain Daesung led a squadron of 6 cruisers against a Varathim capital ship. The enemy vessel was massive, easily 20 times the size of the Indomitable. Its weapons could tear a human ship apart with a single blast, but Daesung didn't try to fight it head-on. Instead, his ship split up, approaching from different angles, staying close to the capital ship where its main weapons couldn't track them. They targeted the smaller organisms that covered the hull, the things that regenerated damage. Activate jammers, Daesung ordered. The quantum disruption field spread out from his ships. The Varathim vessel shuddered. Its healing slowed. Wounds that should have closed in seconds stayed open. All ships concentrated fire on the same point. Now, 6 ships fired as one. Energy beams and kinetic rounds hammered into a single section of the enemy hull. Armor that had resisted the Lithian energy weapons cracked under the sustained assault. The Varathim ship tried to adapt, but the jammers prevented the regeneration. The hull breached. Atmosphere vented. The capital ship began to list. Target destroyed, the tactical officer reported. Daesung allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. 1 down, 2,999 to go. The battle raged for hours. Human ships died by the dozens, but they took Varathim vessels with them. When conventional weapons failed, Engineer Yuna's suicide protocol activated. Ships with critical damage overloaded their reactors and rammed enemy vessels. The explosions lit up the nebula like new stars. It was brutal. It was desperate. But it was working. Admiral Taman watched the casualty reports climb. 400 ships lost. 800. 1,000. Each one represented hundreds of lives. People who had volunteered to stand between Earth and destruction. But the Varathim were suffering too. Their advance had stopped. For the first time since they emerged from the dimensional rift, they were taking significant losses. They had expected to sweep through this sector in days. Instead, they were bogged down in a grinding battle of attrition. Admiral, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission. It's from the Draconid fleet. On the screen appeared the scarred Draconid commander Bora had spoken 2 days before. Human Admiral, my fleet is en route. We will arrive in 6 hours. Taman felt hope stir. Welcome to the fight, Commander. The Draconid's eyes gleamed. You have shown us something we forgot. The will to stand and fight. We will not let you stand alone. As more ships jumped into the system, Taman allowed himself a small smile. The elder races had run, But now they were coming back, not because of superior technology or overwhelming force. The stars were dying and nobody saw it coming. Captain Dae-sung stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force cruiser Indomitable, watching the emergency broadcast from the Galactic Union Council. His crew fell silent as the images appeared on the main screen. Entire planets reduced to ash. Cities that had stood for thousands of years now burned in purple fire. Fleets that once numbered in the thousands scattered like leaves in a storm. The Vorathim had returned. Dae-sung had heard stories about them during his academy days. Ancient legends from races older than humanity's written history. Beings from another dimension who consumed galaxies the way a forest fire consumed wood. Most people thought they were myths. Ghost stories that elder races told to scare their children. But the burning worlds on his screen were very real. The war had started 3 weeks ago when a dimensional rift opened near the galactic core. The Vorathim poured through like a black tide. 4 major civilizations fell in the first week. The crystalline Lithans, who had mastered energy manipulation for 10 millennia, were overwhelmed in 72 hours. The Kalari, beings of pure energy who thought themselves immortal, discovered they could die after all. The proud Draconids, whose empire spanned 300 systems, watched half their worlds burn before they could mount a defense. Dae-sung turned to his communications officer. "Any orders from Earth Command?" The young officer shook his head. "Nothing yet, sir. All channels are filled with refugee traffic and distress calls." On the screen, Counselor Bora appeared. She was Earth's representative to the Galactic Union, a diplomat who had fought for 3 decades to make humanity's voice heard among the elder races. Now her face showed exhaustion and barely contained anger. "The Council has convened an emergency session," she announced. "The elder races are mobilizing their remaining fleets. They plan to make a stand at the Nexus Point." The Nexus Point was a strategic location where multiple wormhole routes intersected. Control it, and you controlled half the galaxy's trade and military movements. Lose it, and the Vorathim would have a clear path to the outer rim where Earth and the younger civilizations lived. "What about Earth's fleet?" someone asked from off-screen. Bora's expression tightened. The Lithan High Commander was very clear. "They consider our technology too primitive to be useful. We've been ordered to evacuate our colonies and prepare defensive positions around Earth." Dae-sung felt anger rise in his chest. Primitive. That word followed humanity everywhere in the galactic community. Yes, humans had only joined the Union 300 years ago. Yes, their ships were slower, and their weapons less powerful than the elder races. But primitive? Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and the near destruction of their own planet. They knew how to fight. They knew how to survive. On a research station orbiting the planet Kepler 442, Dr. Hana was studying something that should not exist. The Vorathim corpse had been recovered from a derelict ship near the battle zone. It was the first intact specimen anyone had captured. Most Vorathim dissolved into energy when they died, but this one had been flash-frozen by a reactor breach. Hana examined the tissue samples under her microscope. The cellular structure was unlike anything in the galactic database. The cells didn't just regenerate, they adapted in real time to threats. Energy weapons made them resistant to energy. Kinetic weapons made them denser and harder. It was like fighting an enemy that learned from every wound, but there had to be a weakness. Everything biological had a weakness. Her assistant rushed into the lab. "Doctor, we're receiving evacuation orders. The Vorathim are advancing faster than predicted." Hana didn't look up from her microscope. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 3 days. Maybe less. Then I have 3 days to find something useful." At Earth's military headquarters in Geneva, Admiral Taman studied the tactical displays with growing concern. He was 73 years old, a veteran of the border wars and the Titan Rebellion. He had spent his entire life preparing Earth's defenses for threats both external and internal, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. The Galactic Union's combined fleet was massive. 15,000 warships representing a dozen civilizations. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything Earth could field. By all logic, they should crush the Vorathim advance. But Taman had learned long ago that logic didn't always match reality. He watched the battle reports from the Nexus Point. The elder races were confident. Their commanders spoke of swift victory and minimal losses. They deployed their ships in traditional formation, massive capital vessels surrounded by smaller escorts. It was a formation designed to project overwhelming firepower. The Vorathim hit them like a hammer. The enemy ships were organic, living vessels that moved with impossible speed. They didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they released swarms of smaller creatures that attached to hull plating and burned through it with acidic secretions. When Union ships fired energy weapons, the Vorathim hulls absorbed the blast and grew stronger. When they fired missiles, the Vorathim simply caught them and turned them back on their creators. Within 6 hours, the battle was lost. Within 12, it was a massacre. Taman watched as the proud fleets of the elder races broke and ran. Ships that had never retreated in 1,000 years of warfare now fled in panic. The Vorathim pursued without mercy, destroying everything they caught. The final transmission from the Lithan flagship was brief. "Tell the younger races to run. There is no stopping them. May your gods have mercy, for the Vorathim have none." Then the signal went dead. Counselor Bora returned to Earth 3 days later. She appeared before the United Earth Council, her face haggard from sleepless nights and desperate negotiations. The council chamber was packed with representatives from every nation and colony. Everyone wanted answers. "The nexus point has fallen," she said simply. 70% of the Union's military strength was destroyed. The survivors are scattered. The elder races are evacuating their core worlds. Silence filled the chamber. "What about Earth?" someone asked. Bora looked at the assembled leaders. "The Vorathim are advancing on multiple fronts. At their current speed, they will reach the outer rim in 8 weeks. They will reach Earth in 12. What are our orders from the Union?" "There are no orders. The Union has effectively collapsed. Every race is looking to save itself." Admiral Taman stood from his seat. "Then Earth will have to save itself." He walked to the central display and activated the tactical map. It showed the Vorathim advance, a spreading stain of red consuming system after system. "The elder races lost because they relied on technology and arrogance," Taman said. "They thought their superior weapons made them invincible. They were wrong." He zoomed the map to show the Taurus cluster, a region of dense nebula 40 light-years from Earth. "This is where we make our stand. Not Earth, not the colonies. Here, we don't meet them in open battle where their technology dominates. We make them fight on our terms." "With what?" a counselor demanded. "Our fleet is a fraction of what the Union lost." Taman smiled grimly. "With everything we have, and with something the elder races forgot they had, the will to survive." Captain Daisung received his new orders aboard the Indomitable. Every Earth ship was being recalled and retrofitted. Civilian vessels were being armed. Retired military personnel were being reactivated. Earth was mobilizing for total war. He looked at his crew. Young faces, old faces, humans from every corner of Earth and its colonies. They were afraid, but they were ready. "Set course for the Taurus cluster," he ordered. "Maximum speed." As the Indomitable jumped to hyperspace, Daesung thought about what was coming. The elder races had tried to fight the Vorathim with power. Earth would fight them with something else: determination, adaptability, and the simple human refusal to lie down and die. The Vorathim had burned 100 worlds. Now they were going to learn what happened when you threatened Earth. The dimensional rift hung in space like a wound in reality. Purple and black energy swirled around it, lighting up the darkness with an evil glow. Around it, 50,000 Vorathim ships waited. They were confident. They had destroyed every fleet that challenged them. This would be no different. They were wrong. The Alliance fleet emerged from hyperspace in a coordinated jump that Commander Jiho had spent weeks planning. 10,000 ships appeared simultaneously at different points around the rift, surrounding the enemy from multiple directions. "All ships engage," Admiral Taman ordered from the horizon. "Execute Plan Omega." The battle began with fury that shook space itself. The Vorathim had numbers, but the Alliance had learned from every defeat. They used Dr. Hana's jammers to disrupt enemy coordination. They employed Commander Jiho's swarm tactics, overwhelming individual targets. They fought not as separate races, but as one unified force. Commander Jiho sat at his station, directing the flow of battle like a conductor leading an orchestra. He sent human drone swarms to create openings, Draconid heavy ships to exploit those openings, Kalari energy vessels to provide covering fire, Lathan ships to disable enemy sensors. "Group 7 is taking heavy casualties," his assistant reported. "They're requesting support. Send the reserve squadron, and redirect Drone Swarm 42 to cover their retreat. The battle was chaos, but it was controlled chaos. Every ship knew its role. Every captain trusted their allies to cover their flanks. Engineer Yuna monitored the 36 ships designated for the Hellfire Protocol. They were positioned around the rift, fighting their way through the Varatham defenses. Each ship bore the black paint and white star. Each crew knew they would not be going home. All Hellfire ships status report, she requested. One by one, the captains checked in. Human voices, alien voices, all united in purpose. Hellfire 1 in position. Hellfire 7 engines damaged but holding. Hellfire 23, ready when you are. Yuna felt tears threaten. These people were volunteering to die. Not because they had no choice, but because they chose to stand between the galaxy and destruction. Dr. Hana worked in the Horizon's medical bay, treating wounded as they arrived. The casualties were terrible. Burns from energy weapons, decompression injuries, radiation poisoning. She moved from patient to patient, her hands steady despite the exhaustion. A young human pilot was brought in, badly burned. He couldn't have been older than 20. As Hana worked on him, he grabbed her hand. "Did we get them?" he asked. "Did we win?" "The battle's still going," Hana said gently. "But we're holding our own." "Good. That's good." His eyes closed. Hana saved him, stabilized him, and moved to the next patient. There were always more patients. The battle raged for 6 hours. Ships died by the hundreds. The space around the rift became a graveyard of burning hulls and debris. But the Alliance kept fighting. For every ship lost, they took 2 Varatham vessels with them. Admiral Taman watched the tactical display with growing concern. They were winning, but slowly. Too slowly. The Varatham reinforcements kept coming through the rift. If they couldn't close it soon, the endless flood of enemies would overwhelm them. "Engineer Yuna, how long until the Hellfire ships are in position?" 20 minutes. "But sir, they're taking heavy fire. We've already lost 5 of them." Taman gripped the railing in front of him. "Redirect our defensive forces. Give those ships covering fire. They're our priority now." Commander Velmar's voice came over the channel. "Admiral, my battle group will cover the Hellfire ships. It will be an honor." "Thank you, Commander." The Draconid heavy ships moved into position, their massive hulls absorbing fire meant for the suicide vessels. Velmar's flagship, the Pride of Fire, took hit after hit. Her shields failed. Her armor cracked. But she kept fighting, kept covering the others. "This is Velmar," the Draconid commander broadcast. "Tell my people I died with honor. Tell them the humans taught us what that truly means." The Pride of Fire exploded, taking 3 Varatham capital ships with her. But the Hellfire ships reached their positions. "All Hellfire vessels report ready," Engineer Yuna said, her voice shaking. "Awaiting your order, Admiral." Taman closed his eyes for a moment. 31 ships. Thousands of lives. All waiting for him to give the word that would end them. He opened his eyes. "This is Admiral Taman to all Hellfire vessels. What you are about to do will save billions of lives. Your names will be remembered for as long as civilization endures. It has been an honor to serve with you." A human captain responded first. "The honor was ours, Admiral. Close that rift. End this war." One by one, the other captains added their farewells. Some were calm. Some were crying. All were ready. "Engineer Yuna, initiate Hellfire Protocol." The first ship's reactor overloaded. The explosion was massive, a ball of fire that lit up the rift. Then the second ship. Then the third. The explosions cascaded, each one triggering the next, creating a wave of energy that slammed into the dimensional rift. The rift shuddered. Reality itself seemed to scream. The purple and black energy started to collapse inward, but it wasn't enough. The rift was too strong. It was closing, but slowly. Admiral Taman studied the readings. They needed more power, more explosions to completely destabilize the rift. But they had used all the designated ships. He made his decision. "All ships, this is Taman. Evacuate the horizon. All personnel to escape pods. That's an order." Dr. Hana looked up from her patient. "What's he doing?" Commander Jiho realized first. No, he can't. But Taman was already locking down the ship's controls, transferring all power to the engines. The Horizon was the largest ship in the fleet. Her reactor was massive. If he overloaded it near the rift, it might be enough to finish the job. "Admiral, please." Counselor Bora's voice came over the channel from the planet she'd been evacuated to. "Don't do this." "Someone has to," Taman said simply. And I'm the one who ordered everyone else to their deaths. It's only right I join them." He looked around the bridge of the horizon. This ship had been humanity's pride, a symbol of their entry into the galactic community. Now it would be their sacrifice. "Dr. Hana, you've saved more lives than anyone in this war. Thank you. Commander Jiho, your tactics won us battles we should have lost. Earth is lucky to have you. Counselor Bora, rebuild what we've lost. Make sure the galaxy doesn't forget what we fought for." The horizon accelerated toward the rift. Escape pods launched, carrying the crew to safety. But Taman stayed at the helm, guiding the ship on its final mission. Boratham vessels tried to intercept him. The remaining Alliance ships threw themselves in the way, buying seconds, buying distance. 10 seconds to optimal position, Taman said to himself. 5, 4, 3. He thought of Earth, of blue oceans and green forests, of cities filled with people he'd never met but had died to protect, of a future he wouldn't see but had fought to make possible. 2, 1. He overloaded the horizon's reactor. The explosion was like a small star being born. The wave of energy crashed into the already destabilized rift. Reality couldn't take the strain. The dimensional rift collapsed. It folded in on itself, taking thousands of Varatham ships with it. The connection to their home dimension was severed. The flood of reinforcements stopped. The remaining Varatham ships, cut off from their source of power, began to fail. Their regeneration stopped. Their coordination broke down. The Alliance fleet, battered but unbroken, fell upon them. The battle lasted another hour. Then it was over. The Varatham were defeated. The surviving Alliance ships regrouped. Of the 10,000 vessels that had entered the battle, fewer than 4,000 remained. The casualties were staggering. But they had won. Commander Jiho took command of the fleet. He ordered rescue operations for the escape pods, medical aid for the wounded, and recovery of the fallen. The work of war wasn't over just because the fighting stopped. Dr. Hana worked for 3 days straight treating the injured. When she finally slept, she dreamed of all the people she couldn't save. But she also dreamed of the billions who would live because of what they'd done. Counselor Bora stood before the Galactic Council once more. The chamber was different now. Representatives sat together, no longer divided by pride or history. The war had changed them all. "The Varatham are defeated," she announced. "The rift is closed. We have won." Cheers erupted, but they were muted. Everyone knew the cost. We must now honor those who fell. Captain Daesung, Captain Minho, Commander Velmar, Admiral Taman, and the millions of others from every race who gave their lives. The Council voted unanimously to create a memorial, not just on Earth but on every allied world, so that future generations would remember what happened, would remember the price of freedom, Bora continued. "We also must ensure this never happens again. The old Galactic Union failed because we were divided. The Alliance of Free World succeeded because we stood together. I propose we make the Alliance permanent, not as a union of superior and inferior races, but as equals. All voices heard. All lives valued. The vote was unanimous. Earth was given a permanent seat on the High Council. Not because humans were stronger or more advanced, but because they had shown what it meant to stand and fight when others ran." 6 months after the battle, monuments were completed across the galaxy. The largest was on Earth in the rebuilt city of Sol. A wall of black stone listed every human who had died in the war.